All right, I'm live at the Red House with a duo called His and Hers. Thank you guys for coming over.
Hey,
man.
thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Super happy to be here.
So I'll go ahead and let you tell our audience your proper names.
So my name is Caleb Davis,
I am Sarah Davis.
and you guessed it right, we are married.
Yes.
Yeah.
For 14 years. 13, going on 14.
Yeah.
All right, so we can start with the origin of His and Hers. You can
Okay.
tell me about how you guys got started as a duo.
Sure.
So like you said, we've been married for 13, 14 years. We started playing as a duo 5 or 6 years ago in kind of the opposite way that most people do. So we got married, had kids, were kind of settled, and then we started playing music live together. It started with being invited to play at a wedding. We sang in high school and that kind of stuff. So we were known as two people who sang. So we were invited to
folks.
we were invited to play at one of our high school friends' wedding. So we played. The few songs we did went really well. So we kind of thought, hey, let's see if we can do this for a 2-hour set and make some money. So we threw together some songs that we knew and
Covers.
and went for it. So that was 5-6 years ago. That's how it started.
Was it O'Callahan's?
It was Restaurant 101 was our first
101.
His and Hers gig.
Restaurant 101. Where's
Which
that?
is in Moxville, downtown Moxville.
Okay. Which
Yeah.
is, y'all were telling me where you guys reside, where you're
Yes.
from.
Yes.
Yeah. We're from born and raised in Davie County, particularly in Moxville. That's where we live now.
So how has it been jumping into the music thing? Has it been a positive journey so far?
Very much. Yes.
Yeah, it has. One big positive for us is that we get to do it together. So we do have kids. So the nights that we were out playing, we joke and call those our date nights a lot of the times when we're out playing music. But yeah, it has. We've met a lot of people. We've definitely grown as performers and being, especially me. I wasn't super comfortable with the whole guitar vocal thing for a long time, and doing this has really helped build that strength and build those guts for sure. But
I think I've always been vocally strong, and it's come naturally to me. I was in my first play, like community play in the 6th grade. So even from then I was Oliver and Oliver. So it's always kind of been a comfortable thing for me to sing out places and doing plays and solos in high school and stuff like that. So vocally it comes very natural to me. Playing mandolin has definitely been a challenge, but I think I can at least keep rhythm.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah. So the band, from what I've seen from y'all, you play guitar, you
Yeah.
play mandolin. Sometimes you'll be singing lead with the harmony. Sometimes you'll be singing lead with the harmony.
Yep.
So when did you guys start, I guess, playing your respective instruments?
I got my first guitar when I was 7th grade, 12 years old, I guess, for Christmas. I had a Squire Stratocaster. It rocked, I was pretty much a cowboy chord player for a long time. It really wasn't until adulthood that I started being more comfortable. Within the last 5 years, I've really started to take the guitar more seriously. So I've had guitars for a while, but as far as being able to comfortably play and take leads and that kind of stuff, it's really only been in the last 4 or 5 years that I've really put my mind to getting better at that. I was always really kind of self-conscious on my guitar playing, to be honest, for the first, again, up until the last 3 or 4 years. It was always kind of I played it because I had to. I'm not going to sing with like a soundtrack, so I had to have something to play with. So that was the reason I wanted guitar in the first place, just to have something to sing with. So it took me a long time to kind of sink into sort of a comfortable skin with the guitar. But I feel a lot more comfortable now than I did even 2 or 3 years ago, for sure.
I learned piano from a really young age and probably took lessons for 10 years. So for me, the switch from piano, which is very linear, to mandolin, where I had and I played flute and xylophone like in high school. So the switch to mandolin was tough to go from a melodic instrument to more percussion and a more rhythm instrument. So it has been a different transition for me.
I got her mandolin for her birthday when she was like 7 months pregnant with our second child.
Yeah.
So I was like, happy birthday. She's like, oh, wow.
Cool.
Here's something to do.
Here, you're going to play it.
Yeah.
So
it was a bit suggestive, but
it's okay.
but
Yeah. I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. It's I have never been one that has loved to sit down and just play and practice. I didn't like to do it with piano. And I still struggle with doing it now. I do it a lot. You know, if I'm learning a new song or something like that, then I'll sit down, but I've never been a good practicer. So I probably could be a little bit further than I am, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I am what I am.
I mean, that's every instrumentalist, for the most part, that I am aware of, always feels like there's still more ground for them to cover.
Yeah.
You know?
oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Probably.
Right. Yeah.
So you said, but I did know, like, when you're talking about mandolin. So this has been. At what point did you start? When did you get your first mandolin? How long ago?
I was, well.
So it was. I mean, I guess our first probably 2 years of his and hers gigs, she didn't play anything. So it's been the last probably 3 years that she's been comfortable enough to actually bring it on stage with us. I guess our son is 9 now, so I actually got it for her about 9 years ago.
Oh, very cool.
But yeah, just kind of getting her hands on it, getting the feel of getting how your fingers feel on strings and that kind of thing. Just the growth from the last 2 years compared to the first 5 is way different. Took her a little while to kind of get over that hump of being
it's a big learning curve to go
being
from
nervous
piano
to bring it up on stage.
Yeah,
but.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was definitely still learning, but I think within the past couple of years, going to the bluegrass jams that we've gone to, I've really learned from and just listening and being around other mandolin players and seeing, okay, here I hear that chop rhythm a lot more than I did before. Not really something that I paid attention to just growing up. I grew up with bluegrass music. My dad listened to it all the time and I hated it. But now, I really got into Nickel Creek like after we got married, and that was where that kind of love for, I guess, the more progressive and less traditional bluegrass came. I've always liked, Alison Krauss, but she's very vocal. But a lot of that, I guess, my ear leaned a lot more towards hearing that chop rhythm when we started playing at the Bluegrass Jam that we played at.
Yeah, it started to make sense.
Yeah, it did. It started to make sense, at least the rhythm side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I can't do without her.
Yeah.
Like if I go to try to play a lot of the songs that we play now, it's difficult if she's not there with that sort of snare drum in the background for me.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the Bluegrass Jam, that was like, that's something I'd like to hear more about. So you said that you guys had kind of an intentional door open or whatever to invite yourself to get into the bluegrass world to some degree or another. So maybe you can just tell me more about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
A few years ago, again, I was the same way. I didn't grow up a bluegrass fan at all, and being around, bluegrass players now, a lot of these, they were born into it. I mean, it's my daddy's daddy, played, and, he, ate a hot dog with Bill Monroe and all these crazy stories.
I grew up going to all the fiddlers conventions, and we went year after year.
Yeah, and that was not me at all.
No, that would neither one.
Neither y'all.
No.
Yeah, not at all. So we went to I caught wind of Billy Strings a few years ago. So I was telling you earlier, and that really opened the door to me to explore some bluegrass and sort of listen to the things that he said were his influences, like Del McCrory and Doc Watson, things like that. So we went to that next year. We actually went to Merle Fest, and then I had posted on our Instagram a video of me playing like a Doc Watson song or something. And this guy sent me a message and said, "Hey, why don't you come to my bluegrass jam?" And I wasn't sure if I was going to get murdered or if it was going to be, it's just this out of the blue, some random guy I never met. So I bit the bullet and went, had an awesome time. And then it's just sort of evolved from there. Now there's a weekly bluegrass jam in Kernersville at the Brewer's Kettle. It's every Monday night, and it's you meet tons of people, and that's the bluegrass jam she's talking about going to. But
it's very inclusive. Caleb went for probably 6 months or so before I even went, and I was extremely intimidated to go, and because I'm so much more comfortable as a vocalist than I am an instrument player, and I was so intimidated to go. And you go, and it's completely inclusive, and you can play as much as you want or as little as you want, or play nothing at all and just sit and listen. So to go to something like that, I think has really blossomed both of us as instrument players and as musicians.
For sure. It's a bluegrass is such a supportive community.
It really is.
In comparison to maybe some other things, like I was in like rock bands in college and stuff like that, and that's, I don't know, there's something different about the bluegrass community, especially I guess in this part of the country, but that we've really sort of gravitated towards, and it's really helped our music blossom a whole lot, for sure.
Yeah. When I first heard y'all, just recently heard some of the more recent stuff that you've done. I mean, the harmonies are just real tight, and the music is beautiful, and I think you probably picked a good path for yourself. It seems like you fit in that world pretty well. So, music, tradition, spectrum. You said you started somewhere that was more rocky, and you mentioned before maybe it was even more, I don't know, like some kind of, there's a different mindset that goes into that. I'm in the Americana world, I guess, in the same way y'all probably are. I mean, the type of bluegrass y'all do that's original is kind of more Americana-ish or roots-ish than pure.
I don't consider
bluegrass.
myself a good enough guitar player to be bluegrass. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I call myself like a folk singer songwriter who can throw a few bluegrass leads down. In a song that I write.
And we also don't have a full band, so most traditional bluegrass bands have a lot of instruments that go along with it, and we don't. While we can play the music, we don't fit that mold.
Yeah.
As being traditional.
Bluegrass.
This may be a blind spot for me because I think of bluegrass music as in the same way that old time music kind of refers to songs that already exist. Are there a lot of original like songwriters in the bluegrass world?
They're the ones that are also performers, not as many. A lot of the, there's several different kind of like sort of like niche genres of bluegrass too. You've got like, you've got sort of the bluegrass that most people think of with like the, you got 7 or 8 guys who are all just incredible pickers and, wear their suit and tie and they, blast off fast leads the whole time.
4-part harmony.
Right. I would say that most of the time those bands don't write their own music. They, they get them from songwriters and stuff. Then you have more, progressive bluegrass stuff, and I would say more in the progressive vein. They do write their own music, so it's kind of a split. But there are some out there that do, for sure. Billy Strings, I mentioned, he writes his music. Molly Tuttle's a great songwriter that plays bluegrass music. Sierra Hull comes to mind, but.
Tony Rice comes to mind. He was kind of my favorite. He has been my favorite guitar player probably my whole life, I guess, or since I've been aware of him. And I think he was in that original music realm. I guess, the times that I've been around like old time musicians, been to old time parties and stuff. It's like certain friends of mine would be like, play a song that you wrote, and maybe they'll play it with you, and I'm like, they don't want me to do that.
They don't know.
Right.
I guess if they're
for
deep
sure.
in that traditional
100%,
stuff.
100%. And that can be one of the intimidating things if you show up to one of these places and it's like everyone there is like in on some secret that you're not in on. Because like they all know this, and you're like, no, what is this? But it seems like it's just like burned into their consciousness from the time they were born.
No kidding. And actually, at that same party that I think of, I finally decided I know like an Ozark song that's definitely an old time song, which is Angel Band, just like a gospel song. It's like, I'll play that. I played it, and then like this bass player was like, "You don't play it right."
Right.
It's like, what do you mean I don't play it right?
Now wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's like it ain't supposed to go to a 4 into this section. I'm
like you didn't play the minor 6 right there. It's like, oh, my bad.
What are the rules, man?
Yes.
Like, I don't know them. Where'd you get the book?
It is a little bit of that unspoken kind of language. I think that both of us would feel comfortable because we grew up in church. We would feel comfortable doing that with hymns. We feel very comfortable and could find, like complex harmony. That's where I learned all the harmonies because I grew up in a church that only did a cappella music. So it was, you heard you heard soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Then I would try to find the middle of like the second soprano. So like in between, because I didn't want to sing with the altos, but then I didn't want to sing with the sopranos. So then I think all of those intricate harmonies, we would feel very comfortable doing that, like with older hymns. that we grew up with.
And to circle back to your question about tradition, that our upbringing, singing like gospel music and that kind of stuff when we were younger, I think that was sort of like a sort of a sleeping part of our like traditional foundation that we sort of pushed away once I got a little older. And then now that we've kind of gotten older and matured and sort of settled into ourselves, that that's definitely been a strong foundation that we've sort of started back out on, you know, with harmonies and simple songs, and trying to find what is going to appeal to a wide audience, what's going to be good to sing.
Pretty much any show that we do, we sing I'll Fly Away.
Yeah.
At the show. So regardless of where we are, like, you know, festival or even out, you know, bars and restaurants.
Yeah, whatever.
We still sing I'll Fly Away, but it is kind of one of those songs that, you know, everybody knows, and it's upbeat and it's fun, and but yeah, we would feel comfortable probably singing a lot of older hymns, but it is like kind of ingrained into us.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So I guess what it brings to mind, this subject, is just like, it's interesting to look at traditional art forms in this way, because I think for so many people, especially younger artists, it's like the only thing that matters is what you can invent from your own originality, from your own imagination and stuff. And for a lot of people, without some kind of grounding tradition, something like, I mean, that's what all genre is, and that's what rock and roll is, and jazz and bluegrass and all this stuff, country music. These things plug you into a tradition, basically, that you're familiar with and you kind of know the rules to. And I think that's interesting. And I guess I wonder what that, you know, tapping into that tradition in particular, I wonder what you would say that is like kind of given you artistically beyond just these jams and beyond whatever. I wonder what kind of effect it's had on your creativity, and whether it's been, you know what I'm saying? Like rather than just living in your pure imagination,
right? If
it's given you something positive to kind of work from.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that the way you described that, being younger and trying to like not want to copy things and not want to follow anyone else's path, whatever, was, you know, definitely my experience at first. But as I've gotten older and gotten more into being around like something that has a wide and deep tradition, it does help ground your direction, and it's palatable to a lot of people, and once you see that people respond to something that they recognize and something that's, you know, dear to them, that makes a big impact on how you sort of shape and create your art that you make. I also think I found it's really cool too, that I never really understood until more recently, is that a lot of like the OG, like the first generation bluegrass guys, like the Stanley Brothers and Bill Monroe and even Doc Watson, like they would be in a place like this, like they were unassuming, and they didn't know that they were so cool.
They didn't know that they were history makers.
They were so innovative, you know what I mean?
Kidding.
So that has really, that's really spoken to me too. When you think about some of the first generation, some of the OG bluegrass guys, they're you know, really cool, and they didn't know it. Yeah,
and we still think they're cool.
Yeah. So you mean within this sort of community of music, there's less of a pressure to kind of have that ego driving it forward? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah. I mean, with anything, there's still going to be some ego, and there's still a little bit of competition, you know. But there doesn't. It seems like people want to support you and lift you up. You know, we've got friends that we've played with before, that have played with us before, that are on huge giant stages now, and that. And they want to see you succeed. It's not a I'm better than you thing. It's just a opportunity and high five, man, you made it kind of thing, you know. So yeah, it's definitely a community of support as opposed to a community of competition. I would say there are some pickers who, you know, are lightning fast, you know, blazing guys who know it and have an attitude about it. But for the most part, the communal aspect definitely outweighs that side of it, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that been how you feel as well? Like, do you get that sense of community?
Definitely. There's a lot of people. I mean, even within Moxville, we have a really supportive small. Well, I'd say Davie County, but I mean, there's a lot of us that all go to each other's shows. They come to ours, we'll go to theirs. Sometimes they'll come and play with us. Like, if we're playing out somewhere,
we'll make a super band one night and all play together.
Yeah, and we've done that before. And even within Davie County, I think that has happened. And I say that Davie County's a little well, I guess in our minds, we're a little special. There is only one high school. So everybody, if you've grown up there, everybody knows everybody. And, if you've, and it's been that way for generations, because there has only ever really been one high school. So there is this level of community support, and then obviously, coming to the,
this way
coming this way, that community support is there.
Yeah. That is what I wish that we could see more of in a community like Winston. And I feel a lot of kinship with a lot of the musicians in Winston. I've kind of grown up with a lot of them, but as far as it being such a small and like tight enough community that we get to do stuff like that, really get to be a part of each other's musical journeys on a regular basis and stuff, I feel like that is not only small town America territory, but it does happen a lot more in bluegrass and in acoustic music worlds and stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of, I don't know, it's enviable. It's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, like I said, I've seen all your podcasts that you've made, and I know that's a recurring theme, and I hate that it's not that way, that it doesn't feel that way. And I don't know how to make it that way globally. Yeah, but I think there are pockets of that, and it just, I think maybe people just need to find their pocket, and sort of nose into another pocket to navigate to something that's supportive like that. Yeah, because it is out there, we feel like we're part of it, so
I'd say so. And like, I do see it more often in more rural communities. When I used to go play in Virginia a lot, we were always kind of welcomed into spaces like that, where it was like, this was the community hangout for this little Virginia town, and we get to like step into it, and it felt like their whole community just was like, we're here and we're interested, and we're glad that you came to contribute this to us, and now you're our friend, so come back sometime.
Right. Yeah, come back anytime. Yeah. I can see that nowadays, especially, that it would be a big characteristic in a rural town. And I guess that's kind of why I say, in our heads, I think Davie County, we think that we're it is a special place, but I think it does go a lot towards our small town thinking in our music. Especially one of the songs that I have is Family Land. And so when we kind of had the idea for that, it was back in high school, we couldn't wait to get out, and we were so ready to go, and we thought that we were big whenever we went to UNC Charlotte and lived in Charlotte for such a long time, or for the 4 years. But then we really found ourselves coming home every weekend, and then we moved back here after school. So the song kind of has this thing where we couldn't wait to leave, and then we found out that really we wanted to be back in that, and we really wanted to be back in that small town, and we hope that our children get to grow up in that
sort
situation.
of embodies our identity as
a little bit,
couple and as a group.
I think so too. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that because of music, or is that because of life?
That's life. I think that's life.
Life for sure.
For us, yeah.
Yeah. I played in like a rock band in college, and that experience was hardly ever positive. It was fun to jam and make music, but it's trying to play out and trying to present that music to people in a big city. There was no, like, you never could find support and direction like you can here, where things are a little more tight knit. Yeah, for sure. So music was doing music here, I think, works out better than it would have in a bigger place. But I think that's just a lucky byproduct of us coming home for life, for sure.
Yeah.
I hear that. I think the reason that I keep talking about certain things that I'm talking about is just because I'm longing for more community unity in my immediate area, whether it's in Rural Hall or whether it's in primarily that it's in Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think Winston still has its own identity as Winston still.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to a big place that's gotten washed out by newcomer. Like Charlotte is not, like, to me, Charlotte doesn't have like a heart and soul like Winston does. You know, it's just kind of, it's like bought. You know, it's gone. So I think Winston still has that heart and soul and personality, but I don't know. It's hard because I feel like, I mean, like, to kind of change subjects, but if we're talking about live music and live music opportunities, I feel like the landscape is so washed and watered down with free music opportunities for people to go see that it's really hard because I think for a lot of consumers, I think the accessibility a lot of times outweighs going to see
The
something
quality.
impactful in art. Yeah. So you almost feel like you have to have a character, or you have to have like a something for people to want to come see you.
Yeah.
You know. So we have a core group of supporters and people that come to see us. You know, when we play, but we've come to find now if we play at here and here for free, and then we have a ticketed show somewhere, then it's hard to pull someone who just saw you 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You
For
know,
free,
a couple miles
yeah,
down
for
the road.
free
So
somewhere.
I think that the Winston scene suffers from that because a lot of the local artists, they, I mean, want to, but also need to get paid. So, you know, you take paid gigs, and then it waters down the gigs that would typically be seen as the more of the listening room or artistic expression gigs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's sort of the biggest thing that hurts the Winston scene right now.
Yeah. It don't help it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, though, I think that as artists, it's up to us. Well, first of all, some places don't really curate a space for music. They have music, but they probably shouldn't. You know, it's not. They've got football games behind you and stuff, and we don't like to get down with that.
Yeah.
But there are some places that are not your traditional music venues, but they curate a space for music. And I think that the good places are out there. It's just we have to, we've got a couple that we play at, sort of semi-regularly they've curated a space for music. They're music lovers. They are supportive and listen to us if we have suggestions, that kind of thing, So I think those places are out there. It's just sort of navigating to find those places and then not oversaturating yourself in the market. So that being said, I know the Gas Hills is a cool room for bands that are sort of on, I guess, our level of success or whatever. But we've played 2 shows there. The first show we played there was actually March 10th, 2020. So it was 3 days before
the shutdown.
Wow.
That was our last show that we
It was on a
played.
Tuesday night, and
everything got shut down 3 days after.
Attendance was slim, but it was still a good time, And then we played there this past summer and had an awesome time. And we had the place packed out with the bluegrass band, So we've had 2 experiences there. One, again, right before shutdown, and the other this summer. It was awesome. So the potential is there. It's just, I don't know. I think it's kind of up to the artist to decide what they want to be and how you want to present yourself. And
yeah,
I don't know.
There's a lot of variables to consider. There's so much. Not to mention like whatever's happening with COVID right now, whatever's happening with how scared people are, but also
For sure.
patterns like what you just described. I mean, I personally, I think too many places do have music. There's larger scale examples of it too. It's not just steakhouses and sports bars and stuff. Like sometimes there are big events that go on, like sponsored by larger businesses in town, in Winston or something, that will feature a bunch of music acts for free, and I'm sure they're getting paid or whatever. But for consumers, that just adds to the whole expectation that everyone has in every department now, whether it's streaming or whether it's events. They just expect to experience music for no
free.
investment, for free.
And agreed.
Sometimes I wonder if it's like, well, that is what we're producing, obviously. So
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder, it's like, do we have to change expectations as people who believed that this was a way to make some spare money or a profession that we could put ourselves into? Is that dead for most people? Is given the fact that so many people are going to be enjoying playing music and so much of it's going to be free, is it just a sad, hard reality that most of us are just there's just going to not be many paths for us to do it professionally?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we can get off my lawn all we want to, but sort of is what it is in some ways. And if you want to play, then here are the places that you can play at, and here are the ways that you can make that happen. But I think that there are ways to curate experiences for audiences that isn't standing up and playing 3 hours of cover music,
Right.
There's one place that we play at a few times a year, and we did a few we call them crossroad shows, where we split the gig with another band. So it was another band that does original music, and then us. So we played. It was almost like an opening and headliner kind of setup, and we had great responses at those shows. So those are and the venues pay what they say they'll pay,
Yeah.
So it's I know it's tough to go to a listening room, and especially for someone who depends on this to pay their bills, and you go up and show up and not many people come, and you can't even fill your gas tank up that night, So there are opportunities out there. I think that as musicians, especially original musicians who maybe aren't really into the bar scenes and stuff, which we really aren't when it comes down to it. There are opportunities out there to still play and to still have success. I think. But.
I think it's been we have counted ourselves very lucky that over this past year, especially, or 2 years almost, that we have full-time jobs, and that it's still able to be a side job and a hobby that still remains fun to us. Where we do count ourselves lucky that we haven't had to rely on this. But does that, with our kids getting older, does that probably limit us as far as opportunities that we may take? Maybe, but that's where we found ourselves very, very grateful for our full-time jobs.
In an ideal world, if I was to go out in your driveway and find $1 million, I'd give you 10%. But then an ideal world for me would be to have a career and have a life that was nothing but music. Whether it was having a venue and a production space and recording space and then playing live shows, that would be awesome. But to someone who's doing that now in the climate with COVID and stuff, I don't see how people can. Yeah, they are, but I really feel for them. It's tough. It's tough out there.
Well, that ties into something that I was thinking to ask you a second ago. What does how do either of you kind of visualize what you think success is for you at this point? What do you hope is your path forward?
That's a great question. So success for me in this, with his and hers, would be to. I don't want to play 100 gigs a year. That wouldn't be success to me. Success to me would be to play the festivals and shows and gigs that we wanted to, we were passionate about, and be able to survive off of that. I've always had dreams that anytime we're driving, we see a for sale sign by a place, I always tell her if that looks like it'd be a cool venue, Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been to the Station Inn in Nashville?
Station Inn, I'm not sure.
So the Station Inn, it's there's a place in Nashville called the Gulch, and it's this super bougie neighborhood with high-rise hotels and fancy restaurants, and they're just little. It's maybe twice the size of this house. This little stone building. It's been a bluegrass club for forever. Bill Monroe, and there's Doc Watson painted on the wall. And it's anywhere from $10 to $20 to get in. They have music every single night. They have pizza and beer.
And popcorn.
And it's the coolest vibe you could ever ask for. And it's right, everything around it has exploded, except it's just right there, preserved, like a time capsule. So something like that would be so cool.
To open something like that.
Right. Yeah. But it's just not financially reasonable or possible, really. You almost have to have a plan with what to do with it during the day to have consistent revenue come in,
Yeah.
So that's where the $1 million in your driveway comes in. Yeah.
I see.
That would be like my ultimate like success story if you could ever make that happen. But
but again, that kind of ties back to, people have supported us for so long, and we want to support newer musicians that don't feel nearly as comfortable and confident as we do. We play at a place in town every Thanksgiving Eve in Moxville. And there were high school girls that came and played with their dad. Their dad was had a band like back in early 2000s, early 90s.
Send us a message and said, hey, can you guys like take a break halfway and let us play a couple tunes? So yeah, sure.
And absolutely. Like we want people to, we would hope that, maybe our confidence would rub off a little bit, and we want to be as supportive as possible to new musicians and maybe people that aren't quite, that don't have a following, and we would hope that we would be able to give that to people that were.
That would definitely be a marker of success if we could contribute to other people's musical journey, whether it's just their own internal happiness or their financial success down the road or whatever. That would be awesome. But
and not that we think that we're the biggest rock stars ever.
No, not at all.
But I think that we've been very fortunate to, again, it kind of goes back to, we've been very fortunate for people to have supported us, and we have both of our families, and both of our families have always come to everything that we've done, and they keep our kids, my parents or his parents keep them. So we've kind of always had that safety net with sure. being surrounded by family. All of our family, for the most part, both of our families live in Davie County. So we've always had that level of support. So for us to be able to offer that to newer musicians, people that are still kind of, figure out where their direction may be, that would be what I would hope that we would give.
And that's a marker for success for what you kind of picture would be your success.
Yes. I would love to play festivals. I really enjoy, we played one in West Virginia. What, Virginia?
Regular Virginia.
Regular Virginia.
East
not
Virginia.
West Virginia. With a band that invited us up there. And it was, just to be there, like we would play at a festival at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it doesn't have to be, closing it or 1,000 people there, but to be there all day, to be able to see and meet so many other musicians, to kind of be backstage and see how other musicians operate backstage.
Yeah, sort of being accepted into that community is sort of where success lies for us also.
Yeah.
I don't really look for much. I still have imposter syndrome a lot. Anytime we get a big opportunity or big break, I have imposter syndrome, some anxiety and that kind of stuff, so it's, I don't really look for approval or like affirmation necessarily from general public, but I do look for it from other musicians and people that I admire and people that I want to work with and be in the community with, So being accepted, playing at these sort of bigger opportunities, that's how I sort of judge the immediate success of what we're doing.
I think I'm a little bit of the opposite because I'm not a social media person. So I guess
it has to do with that too.
I'm not on social media a lot, and sometimes we'll go to these places and people will ask if I've heard of somebody, or if I know so and so, and I'll say, normally my answer is no, but I'm sure that Caleb has. So I think I'm a little bit of he handles all of the music kind of contacts and all that sort of stuff, and I handle the kids. So I'll show up to places sometimes and I have no clue like what the venue looks like or how many it could hold, or surprise.
You're here to sing.
I'm here to sing. There could potentially be a lot of people here.
Yeah.
So
but we're definitely at this point in our life and music career, definitely quality over quantity, in terms of music and what we consider a good gig and a good choice.
Sure.
Just this past November, we canceled a paying gig to go play a free gig, to go open for a nationally touring band that asked us to go open for them, So they said there wasn't a lot of money in the budget for openers. Don't need money, it's fine. So I asked them to give our kids a T-shirt, and they did. So so I turned down a good paying gig to go and do that. So that's more important to us at this point, is to get enriching experiences. And
yeah,
so
I like that story.
Yeah.
You're not the first person to mention the phrase imposter syndrome or whatever on this podcast.
Yeah.
And that makes me curious. Like, what is that all about? What is it?
I don't know. I feel like when you're a music fan, and like someone who produces music also, you're always comparing what you do to what you like and what you're a fan of. And also too, like when I was younger, I was a huge Beatles fan. Mm-hmm. Like they were like this. I've always been someone who had like obsessive music like interest. So it was the Beatles for several years. Like had every Beatles CD at the time and knew all the song. Like I would like to pause between songs and like hum the note that the next songs would start on to see if I could do that for the whole album.
Wow,
random, right? So and then I was obsessive over, it's kind of embarrassing, but obsessive over Coldplay for a long time, and then Radiohead, and then so like you like look at these musicians as God figures, as these like almost non-human whatever, and then you start playing and you play live, and then you start to get a little bit of success, and it's like, well, I can't, I'm not that good, you know what I mean? So that's how I look at it, as because I'm first and foremost, I'm a music fan, more like before I was a musician, Yeah. So before I ever picked up a guitar, I was listening to Abbey Road 15 times in a day,
Yeah.
So
that is very interesting. Particularly, because there's a buddy of mine that I talk to sometimes, in one conversation I remember having with him, and he's like more successful than me and all this stuff. And we talked about how, like, I don't know, as not far along as my career is, as far as reaching people, like, I guess I don't know. I think maybe I've been aware of the temptation to have that thought, to have this feeling of this comparison of me to other people. And for me and for him alike, we had talked about what that was and how our decision at some point was to sort of say, no, like I believe that I am as good as the people that I admire. I don't look at other people's stuff as superior to mine. And that's been like a practice that, at least in my life, I feel like I've had to have in order to, I don't know, like believe in what I was doing as much as I possibly could. And so it's interesting to hear from folks that, that's just like, it sounds like that's just a different way that same thought is expressed. Clearly I have to wonder if my stuff is as good as other people's from time to time. But
well, and I think for me, I don't know if I really have the imposter syndrome as much as whenever we play in places that we play a lot, I don't get nervous anymore. Like there's no nervousness left. Like it's just routine and we know what we're doing. And
some gigs are work,
Yeah, and some are work. But those, especially in festivals and bigger venues where we open for bigger bands, I get nervous, and I have to remember that, I enjoy getting nervous because that means I'm growing. So that means that that we're growing together, that I'm personally growing. So I like to play in those venues where I get nervous, and it challenges me because, in those ones that you kind of play at and you're super comfortable, like if there's a football game on, like I can find myself in a routine, in a routine gig that we do all the time. Well, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the game, and of course I'm still singing along, but like I'm not really paying attention to it. And so I like those gigs where I feel nervous and I feel challenged and I feel that, I'm growing. Yeah. Music.
And our band, our group is growing.
Yeah.
The band that I was talking about that we opened for, like just as an example, we saw 4 or 5 years ago, we saw this band playing out and kind of became fans of them, and we've paid money to see them, I don't know, 5 or 6 times.
I was a super fan.
Yeah, I mean, got T-shirts and everything, right? So we ended up getting on the same festival as them and met them, and then we played at their festival. They played at our, like we ended up playing with them a couple times, and then we paid money again to go see them somewhere play. And after we were hanging after, and he was like, "Hey, you guys free next Saturday to open for us?" It's like,
and
yeah, cool. So
of course I'm like, oh my.
Yeah. I was like, play cool.
I can't do that, but I was like, oh, and I don't think that this band did not realize how much of a fan I was of theirs, and so like to meet them for the first time, I was like, oh my goodness.
But opportunities like that, I guess, is what I'm getting at, is that it does kind of help with the imposter syndrome a little bit, that you meet people and it's like you meet other bands on like a friendly level and a communal level, so that kind of helps. Like, oh, just normal people just like us, you know what I mean? So
they are.
But
yeah,
it is tough though, and it kind of comes and goes. It's weird. Some gigs you walk into and you feel like you could conquer the world, and then some you walk into and you have to take a couple extra deep breaths for some reason. So
it is a lot. Well, I can't speak for other people, but it's nice that we get to do it together. So if it is one of those that, it's work, like there's maybe not a lot of people here, or people aren't really paying attention, then, I mean, we are doing it together. So it is, we make it fun. Even if everybody else maybe isn't really paying attention. I think we make it fun together, and we can pick around and we joke around with each other. So that definitely helps. Then if you were to, be playing by yourself.
Thinking back, I can't believe that I played rooms where there were like football games going on.
I know.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
whenever we played at one of the last shows that we've played at, we worked. It was a 5-day week, and we worked all week, and we were so tired. And Caleb was singing. He was singing like a verse in a song, and like I just completely almost. I feel like I went to sleep. I didn't, but I mean, I felt like,
what are we
oh,
doing here?
like hold on, I have to snap back. Like I'm supposed to be. I think I'm supposed to be singing here.
One of the first places that would pay us to play when we first started out. We haven't played there in years, but I remember there was one gig we were playing at, and I leaned over to Sarah while she was singing, and I said, "If you drop dead, no one would notice." and that was her response. I was like, "Yeah." It's like, if you drop dead.
Nobody would.
And
notice.
It was 100% true. Like, you would be dead for minutes before anyone would be like, "Oh, is the singer dead?"
Oh,
like, yeah.
What happened to them? Yeah. But I have felt myself like watching a football game, or there's a movie on, and I'm sitting there watching it, and like. But I mean, it is a testament to how much we have done it, because I mean, I can be singing something and still read subtitles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a talent.
If people knew all the stuff that went on in my head while I was singing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like how much I can be. It's like muscle memory in your brain. I can be like, I must be articulating words with my mouth, but I'm literally like thinking of other words with my
Yes, I'm making
mind.
my grocery list for the weekend. Yes.
It's crazy that brains can do that.
I know. But it is. It's muscle memory. And you know what else goes to that? We've played one time, there's a Brandy Carlisle song that I loved, and I wanted to cover it. And he played it in a key that was maybe a half step higher. A whole step higher, just a little bit. And the chorus came, and I squeaked, and I was like, that is not the right key. But I mean, you get into muscle memory with the music also, and with the notes, and like you do the same thing night after night after night. So
capo can be your friend or your enemy.
Yes, sir. It sure can.
I think it was maybe a half step. Anyway, that muscle memory applies to vocally also.
It's really weird. It's weird how much your mind can wander when you do that. And just thinking back on environments that I used to play in, that music was so secondary. And I remember some early shows when like just before the trio existed, like playing in places where people were like restaurant managers would come up to me like, "Hey, can you like play something that people are more into, and like, can you play like some Leonard Skinner or something?" And I'm like,
it's awful.
Hold on.
I didn't come here with the ability to just you name a song and me play it.
Yes.
Like I came here prepared for a certain amount of songs.
Right.
Yeah.
Or people ask you to turn it down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like,
It's the worst.
come on. on. I mean, like, we're here for, this is what we're here for.
God, I had this guy, and I won't say the place because I don't even know who this guy was, but we had a guy come up to us after our set. The whole first set, he kept like making big gestures and being like making things like that at us, like he was so distressed. And I was like, what is your problem? And after the set, he came up to me real quick, and he was like, listen, I saw the McGee boys out here last week, and they were so silent that you had to like lean into them and really try to listen to hear them at all. And that's what you should be doing. Like, I'm trying to protect my ears. I'm an old man. And I was like,
Wow.
bro, go home. I don't care what you do, but just stop talking to me.
The last time that happened to us, it was, I'm going to pick on the elderly, but it was an older, it's an older lady. And she did the same thing. This is actually the last time we played at this place, but she came up and did the same thing. You know, she's like, it's too loud. I'm like, okay. And it rubbed her wrong. So she just like cranks it up to like almost feeding back. I was like, oh God.
I think I pretended for a little bit, like I would like touch the dial and I wasn't turning it down
finally
at all.
She just cranked it.
And I said, you know what? And poor thing, like this woman really was like right beside of our speaker.
She's probably dead now.
But I mean, like I mean that's like that's what we're here for. That's what we're supposed to do. And like, I'm sorry if you're sitting close, but the people that are way in the back, if we turn it way down, they can't hear. So anyway, we haven't played at that place since actually, but I mean, and this was pre-COVID. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's and kind of going back to it, it's nice to play at places that you get nervous to play at, you know, that it's that muscle memory isn't there. It is a big deal. Or to do a new song. Like anytime that I do a new song that I've learned that even if it's hours and I know, okay, this is new and like nobody's going to know that I get the words wrong, but I still use my words. We have an iPad that all of our music is on and it's very much a crutch for me. But he hates it. He can't stand it. But it's for me. And anytime that we go somewhere that I'm nervous at, I'm like, okay, that I do not want to be up there and blank on the words, especially something like, you know, if we're doing a traditional song and everybody knows the words, I just
turn the mic to the crowd.
I can't do that. I can't. So anyway, I even get nervous like if we are doing a new song or you know, especially if I'm doing the lead.
Yeah.
Then, but it's nice. I like to keep it keeps you challenged, I think.
Do y'all write songs together?
She is good with concepts. Like, hey, it'd be a good idea for a song, and she'll kind of lay out, and then I'll take it and make the song. You know, that's usually how it goes. Yeah. I'm really like particular about like phonetics and like the flow of like the words. Like it's one of my pet peeves when you have like a phrase that's too big crammed into it. You know what I mean? I can't stand that kind of stuff. So like if I'm writing songs, like I've written songs with other people before, and if they're like shouting things at me, it's like I can't. No, that's, you know what I mean. I have to like process it in my own head to have the right. You know what I mean. The right. It's got to sound right. If it doesn't sound right, then that's almost as important as like the actual words. As long as the context and the content is still the same, you know. I feel like people get like married to certain lyrics or certain phrases, you know, and they can't like let that go to make it sound better.
Yep.
He is very private about it. He doesn't I mean, he's probably got, you know, as I'm sure a lot of songwriters do, probably 50 like starter songs
it's like
on his
my
phone.
Notes in my phone. Just, you know, right there.
But that's his space, you know, and he writes it and he'll say, okay, I have a song for you, and like he'll play it through, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know it yet.
I just expect her to know it.
It's just
that's it. That's
here's the song. I'm like, well, especially I need to like absorb it.
When we're recording, I'd be like, I have a song for you to record that I wrote, and I'll play it through. And it's like, all right, you ready?
Okay, here.
Whoa.
You ready to start? And I'm like, wait, I don't think so. No.
It's one of my flaws.
Yeah. But yeah, I think conceptually, I'm a big picture person. Yeah. Like we tell this story on our last album. We wrote a song called Johnny Bootlegger, and we were doing Adopt a Highway for the church that we were going to at the time. And I saw this little airplane bottle of Johnny Bootlegger, and I mean, I hadn't ever heard of what that was. I didn't know what it was.
We only drink high-class liqueurs at our house. So,
Yeah, right. So I said, oh, well, this like sounds like it would be a good song, and so then it was all right. This. And nobody even knows this because it's not a part of the song really, but it was like a female inmate, and she's like walking along the side of the road, and she finds a
Like a
half
Chain
empty
Gang
bottle.
song.
Yeah, like a half empty bottle, and she drinks it, and it's like the best day that she's ever had because she's in the sunshine. And
she's like, and go. I was like,
and
"Okay,
here you
thanks."
go. Okay, so that's the concept.
That's how songs get written.
Yeah.
At the house. Yeah.
Yeah, I have some of those. Most of what we do, he has the ideas.
I will say too, though, she's also good at sort of grounding me and helping me make things like accessible, because I think she represents like a consumer like that you would.
Yes.
She's more of like a normal consumer music as opposed to me who likes B tracks and that kind of stuff.
I get that, what you mean.
Yeah. So if it doesn't have a good melody, if it's not catchy, she'll tell me. She'll be like,
Also for a show, I still feel I'm a consumer that I want a good show.
She's our set list maker usually too.
And I feel that I can build our show now that we have hours of music. Yeah. I feel that I can build it in a way that catches people to be able to listen.
Yeah.
I also get in ruts too of writing the same song, like or the same song but in a different key or maybe a different tempo, and she helps me point that out, like that's the same melody as this song, So so she's definitely a good ear for a good critique to help me kind of guide myself from the wings back kind of to the middle.
That Radiohead influence kind of comes in every once in a while, and I have to I have to tone it back down a little bit.
Stuff.
Hold on.
I've also lately too started to when I get in a rut start to write songs that I feel like other people like we're recording our new record right now, so I've got a song on there called Adriana, and I wrote that as if John Prine would sing it or write it. That's kind of how I had to think about it to get out of my normal routine. Or like I'll write a song that I think that like this could be on a Tyler Childers album or something like that. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I think too, to get myself from my same old.
I think
habits.
most of both of those for me would be very down to earth songwriters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and not simple, because John Prine's writing especially isn't. It seems simple because he was so good at it.
Right.
And it seems easy, again, because he was so good at it. But I think you still have to be able, it still has to be relatable to the mass. And so if it's a, kind of a more conceptually like ethereal, whatever, we got to bring it back down a little bit,
Yeah. That is pretty cool to be able to have that balance between you kind of in there. Because I imagine it just really brings your strengths to the surface.
Sure. Yes.
And I sometimes still do, but definitely at first sort of like took offense to it in a way, like you write the song yourself then, that kind of thing, but no, it definitely does help, help sort of bring it, or if I write something that's a little bit slower, it's like, this song would be really good if it was, and like cut that time and let's do it.
Yeah.
Double, that kind of thing. So she has a good ear for that.
I like slower things, but I like to go, me personally, I like to go to a show that has something that's upbeat, has several songs that are upbeat. And I also, and I don't know if a lot of people would agree with me, but I like to go to a show that if they are doing original music, has at least one cover that I can sing along to. Because I feel like that kind of brings the audience in a little bit. Like, yes, they can appreciate that original music, but to sing a cover, just like something that they can sing along to, I think is fun. And it adds, a little bit of connection between the performers and the people that are watching. So that's just me. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
Since you've leaned into bluegrass the last few years too, that's actually a huge plus, is that there are so many traditional songs that aren't quite the same as a cover, like playing a traditional is not really playing a cover.
Yeah.
So for me, I hate playing covers. We did it for several years before our original music repertoire was big enough. So I don't like doing it with few exceptions. But playing traditionals and it's okay in my book. You know what I mean? So that really helps us have a big enough repertoire to play for 2 or 3 hours if we need to. You know.
And there are gigs that we'll go to, you know, if it is just a restaurant or something like that, then a lot of people don't sing along to those traditional bluegrass songs. But if we do go somewhere that, you know, is, and I don't mean like regionally, if we do go somewhere that has a lot of, you know, bluegrass fans or
people that we know that are in the community,
then that lends itself to those people being, I think, interactive. And singing along with us.
And there are a lot of our original music too that are similar to traditionals that we will turn into like a medley kind of thing, you know. So, like we've got a song that we wrote called the Unemployed Blues. That was our one. Like, I hate pandering songs too. I hate songs that people write to pander to. It's one thing to write about a cause if you're passionate about it, but to write about things to just to get, you know, social media likes or maybe a little money, whatever.
As in like pandering to
so like there's a song that's on the radio by Luke Combs called 6 Feet Apart, and that makes me cringe. It's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me, dude. It's like he's just like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
pandering to something that is already a hot enough sort of topic.
Right, it's already there. Like we don't need that.
Be interacted with. Is that kind of the idea?
Right. Like we don't. Yeah. You know what I mean. So, or someone like taking advantage of a bad situation and writing a song about it. So that being said.
Oh yeah.
That being said,
gotcha there.
I did not want to write a COVID song. I did not want to write anything about, you know, lockdown or anything like that. But we had an organization asked us to be a part of this album they were putting together of like songwriters during lockdown, whatever, and they asked if we could write a song about our experience. So I wanted to be a part of it because it was cool. So we wrote a song called "The Unemployed Blues." It's about losing your job as opposed to, you know, this. So anyway, it's like very similar to "Rolling in My Sweet Baby's Arms," the classic song, you know. So we always play that as like a 7 or 8 minute medley to start shows most of the time. So it's not really the same as playing a cover in my book, you know what I mean? If you're playing, I don't know how we circle back around to this, but
I totally get that though.
Yeah.
Like playing a traditional song puts you in this thing where this sort of like I'm doing something that's a pastime versus I'm doing something
it's like you're paying
that's
tribute to all that has ever been, you know?
Yeah, participating in a tradition. As
I'm not
opposed
playing
to like,
Brown Eyed Girl or Margaritaville.
Or Luke Combs or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
Which he's so interesting, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a good songwriter in terms of like that, like Nashville machine of songs. You know? Like he can rail off a hit, man.
He really can. I mean, he has dominated the country, sort of whatever. He's dominated Nashville now for just in a different way than most people have.
Started out with his like TikToks, whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy. Which I think he started on Vine, didn't he?
Vine.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah, he's a really interesting dude, and I do appreciate that he writes songs first, and that they're like not horrible.
Yeah, I didn't mean to like, you know,
no.
Call him, just saying like
at the same time,
as an example.
I think that he is. He's a great example of somebody who does the Nashville thing better than many. But I mean, for me, I imagine for you too. I don't look at his songs as like these masterfully written.
Right.
I wouldn't compare his songs to John
to
Prine songs.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's hard for us to find that though, but I think a lot of it is because we're so inundated, like with social media, that everything is just kind of. I mean, could you imagine somebody coming out with like John Prine songs now? You know, I feel like it would be really hard for us to know to
get noticed,
the difference, or for it to get noticed.
Yeah. I've had similar thoughts. I was kind of playing with a thought the other day of like why, in a certain time period in music, there were so many great songwriters that came out that people knew about that were like. at Woodstock. I mean, can you imagine an event like Woodstock going on now and Simon and Garfunkel playing it and all those people like listening to it?
Yes.
Just being like dead silent and listening to what they were hearing.
Right.
That would be hard to come by.
It'd be like
you know?
Doja Cat and stuff like that would be there now. You know,
I don't
like,
know who that is,
exactly.
if I'm being honest.
Yeah. But yeah, like think of like Jim Croce and Cat Stevens and all these like that you know, people had like their records back then. People would like make an effort to go and get these like, I don't know, I guess poets in some ways. Of like of their actual like art. You know,
Dude, I mean,
and now it's
still carrying that. If you ask people, who are some of your favorite musicians or songwriters? That's the people they're going to name. They're going to say Jim Croce,
right.
James Taylor, the other one you just
Prine.
named,
John
Prine,
Cat Stevens. Right?
Cat Stevens. That's who I'm thinking of, or Jackson Brown. Like all these people from maybe the early '70s forward. And I don't believe that people don't care about songwriters anymore. I just think I don't know why that time period is kind of stuck and considered the golden age for these guys, for that type of music for a time period. I mean, but I think there are, I don't know. There's a lot of songwriters that have come from then that have been successful. I mean, like people more like in Steve Earle's camp, leading on down the line to people
even up
like
to Childers
Justin
and stuff.
Townsend.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Tyler Childers. Yeah, I mean, there are people who are really enthusiastically passionate about music. I think still care what songwriters are up to.
Yeah.
I just feel like the screw up is the I don't know who. There's not a ghost to blame it on, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like the screw up is something about how the industry is organized that doesn't believe that art is enough to maintain people's interest, and that you have to have big production.
They want a reason to take a selfie. Or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
They want something more than just like some sort of internal experience and feeling. There's got to be something else.
But and I work at a high school, and so many of the and I say kids, I use that loosely, you know, like we didn't grow up in a social media age where we didn't really come into, I mean, we didn't get Facebook until college, and that was when it was still
cool.
college.
For college,
it was only colleges, you know. But kids now, I mean, you have to grab them in 5 seconds or they're going to scroll past you. And so, you know, that lack, I don't want to say that lack of appreciation, because I know that some of the kids that I teach and interact with, like, they'll know, I mean, they know who the Beatles are and they know who bigger names are, but I mean, it's so much of in your face, I guess, reaction that this generation behind us has to feel like immediately. Like they may not have the patience to sit and listen, like, to
a song that develops into like an amazing story in the third verse.
Right. So it's that landscape is also changing because of such an access to, I mean, you have access to any music that was ever written. So the not that the magic is gone, but I think it's just different.
It is kind of true.
I feel that. I feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, I used to I idolized musicians when I was growing up.
Yeah,
you know, and I don't know, not so much anymore. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like I don't know of anyone that I feel the same way about like I used to.
Yeah.
I was a kid, but still.
Even like when I hear, I'm trying to. I don't really have many anecdotal examples of this, but I feel like the way people talk about, like, I think Billie Eilish is probably the megastar of right now. Like, she represents the youth or whatever, as far as the direction people think. They don't talk about her like probably somebody that's idolized in the way that we might have grown up idolizing people. Like, it's like, she's a person. She wears these kind of clothes.
Yes.
Right. Respect her.
This is what her social media looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not so much about this is what her songwriting looks like.
Maybe not. I mean, I think people do care about her songs. Now, the fact that she wrote them, maybe they don't care about that. But I don't think they have her on this non-human pedestal that like would lead them to try to. This sounds a little sensational.
Yeah.
Wouldn't lead them to try to like assassinate her like
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
would
Right,
do
yeah,
John
sure.
Lennon.
Like with John
you know?
Lennon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see that.
At least I hope not. Stay well, Billy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
If she does,
I'm gonna be screwed.
there's going to be you're on a list already, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, dang it.
But yeah, it's I don't know. And you mentioned songwriters and like like Woodstock, whatever. So I guess that goes back to your question earlier about like what do you measure success as then?
Yeah.
So if you're making a connection with people, and I know it all comes back. It ultimately comes back to making a living for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, people have to have their things they need to survive. But what do you consider success as a songwriter and as a musician? And if is that a headlining or a whatever set at a giant festival like Woodstock, or is that having people tell you that they're moved by your music, or is that getting a gig every other weekend where you can get paid, or what is that?
Yeah, and I think for me personally, I don't know if it sounds naive, I don't know if it sounds foolish, but it boils back down to like where we are in the world or something. And when I think romantically about what Woodstock was, I think about the fact that like it was kind of this organically born thing, and these musicians that got to be there, not to mention they were all part of a movement in time,
right,
when our thinking was new, like our whole culture shifted toward new places, and it was something that seemed to matter in people's lives. That's what I envy most, because like now we've reached this point where art is not an organically developed experience that people have that means the world to them.
Yes.
In most cases.
Yes.
Now art is so passive. A lot of things have been done. Cultural movements are kind of halted. There's no direction that our culture's going in. It's like everybody's fragmented into all these different things.
Yeah.
People don't feel unified around like singular things anymore. So I think for me, what I dream of, what would be a successful outcome, is like to have the type of life and career where the result was that people really felt connected to what I was doing and cared about it enough to like be there for it, that I got to share it with people.
Yeah.
I don't care right now that I don't like. It's unfortunate. If I could make money, it'd be nice to make money. But if I had to decide between, changing it to where I got paid more for people to passively listen to my music versus having a life where I made money alternatively, but I got to like have really meaningful experiences.
Still
with
enjoy what
people.
you do. Yeah.
And like them enjoy that space, like
Yeah.
us be able to connect over that.
Right.
That's what I miss most about, I think, what music used to feel like to me, was that it mattered to people.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably moving into next year and us starting to book for next year. That's really where that's the direction that we would like to go in.
Yeah. More meaningful experiences and spaces.
Yeah.
And we've already, I mean, we've said no more than yes already this year, to try to, curate what you're saying, like, we're kind of tired of the passive.
Yeah.
But it is hard to go, to a place and you're singing original music and people aren't listening. It's like somebody that, if they were to have an art show and people are just walking by, so it's.
I hear you mention the garage a lot in your talks, and I was never there. I wasn't really making music when it was open. What was that atmosphere like that is not romanticized, but that you miss? What was that like?
Well, the garage it kind of felt like an old rockabilly club. As soon as you walked in, I mean, the whole thing was truly designed to serve a purpose. Like, you walk down a hall that's surrounded by music posters. And so that already feels like you're a part of something that like goes back and supports music and all this. You can't enter the building unless you pay the doorman who's at the end of this hall. You go into this big open space that's ugly and graffitied and feels like a rockabilly movie, and there's weird posters and weird pieces of art and weird pieces of metal, and everything's dirty, and everything is pretty much dark except for some string lights along the walls. except for the stage. And the stage has big stage lights kind of above and big giant speakers like hanging from just a wooden platform and chains hanging down from the ceiling. Everything's very industrial and ugly and perfect. And what I loved about it most, I guess, was just the fact that there was, I don't know if they even paid, I don't know if they were expected to pay BMI and ASCAP stuff. I don't know if I don't think they expected, nobody went there expecting a cover band. It was the type of place where you went there expecting to see original music. And Tucker, who was on the show recently, I mean, he just, he was interested in what shows he had. Like he wanted them to, he wanted to bring cool stuff to town, you know?
Yeah.
So anything I wanted to do, I just knew I could do. I could go to the garage. I could go put on a show that some loyal people would come to, and it was going to be my show. It was going to be what I had envisioned for myself. Unlike what we were describing before, I wasn't going to have somebody come up to me and say, could you do something that like appeals to a more generic group of people? Or could you like do something like more quiet? Could you like be less loud, less visible? Any of that. All the attention was just on how interesting is the music going to be tonight.
I think there's several venues that we've played at, but I do think that Bill at Muddy Creek has that. He has that mindset of the musicians are the focus. And when
you played at Muddy Creek, right?
Not in Sparta. I played in Bethania a lot.
Yes, but I think that, you know, and now you go and there is a restaurant. Well, there was a restaurant there too, but and the restaurant's excellent. But I think that Bill has that mindset of the musicians are the focus. And you know, we've played there before at a ticketed show, and there weren't that many people there. However, it's made for music. I mean, he has everything that you all you have to do is plug in. So it's a curated space, I think.
I loved the shows in Bethania. It was pretty much, it turned into probably my favorite spot as the garage was. I guess it was at maybe, I don't know if it was after the garage closed, but anyway, I loved playing at Muddy Creek in Bethania for that very reason. I mean, Bill was great, and those shows were killer. I loved that room. But I haven't made it up to the Sparta room. I mean, I've been to the Sparta room, but I haven't played it yet.
I played there 2 or 3 times last year. It's a cool place.
Yep.
I'll give him your name.
We're very in touch, Bill and I.
Just kidding.
I was thinking of doing some work with them, but we just COVID messed up a lot of that stuff.
What do you, in your, I don't know if you had a crystal ball, do you like, what would it look like to you if it was your, I don't mean to turn this around and interview you, but what would,
I like to participate.
Yeah. What would an ideal situation look like to you, like for Winston?
Oh, for Winston?
Yeah.
Do you mean like venue-wise or community-wise?
Both. Yeah, I mean.
Well, venue-wise, I do wish that we just had something similar to one of those rooms, either the old Muddy Creek or the garage, that just allowed artists maybe at my level or whatever to do their thing and to tap into an audience that feels like the space is truly in support of that show and also like it doesn't feel empty, which is that's the only thing about playing the big room at Ramcat is like if you don't have a big crowd, you really notice it sometimes from the stage. And I think they notice it too.
Yeah.
Sure.
So more venues, obviously, simple answer would be great. Yeah. Community-wise, I don't know how to even start to think about what I imagine could be the best outcome as far as the Winston-Salem community. Like, I think there could be more distinction between your regular folk art that just is given away for free because like that person just needs to be able to do it in front of people, versus how we tap into audiences that can support larger shows that like take more production and then therefore need more recoup.
Right.
On a personal level, worldwide, on a personal level, I just think technology has changed everything, and that includes the way that we try to relate to the arts. And that's way beyond my pay grade to even try to conceptualize an answer to that. We'll never be able to change the fact that we've created social media and we've created the technology that allows us to try to create a digital life instead of a real one.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think that's true, but I also think that I think the quality, the cream rises to the top in a lot of ways too. You know, so I mean, we can make as many TikToks and do dances and do silly stuff as much as we want to, or you know, put out stupid videos, whatever. But if the music sucks, it sucks.
It does.
You know,
You're right. And if the creativity is more like, if it's more in the realm of like the humorous side of relating to people, being silly instead of something that's deep.
Right.
Sure, those both have a place in the world, but crystal ball wise, I think all I know is I hope that we start to think more about the need that we have for community rather than like the convenience of these tiny little micro worlds that we've been creating for ourselves. That's all I know is I see the place for music as a product of it belongs to communities of people. It's not something that I want to just do by myself or just do for my 3 neighbors. I want to do it with more people than that. And I hope that that's something, I hope community itself is something that we start to appreciate more as time goes on, especially post-COVID.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just finding how to do that, and then again, it's tough because there has to be some sort of, for most people, some sort of financial
recoup.
Yeah, unless you make it purely about community and fun. You know, because if there's ever, you know, show tickets money involved, that's when things get kind of goofy. So. For sure.
Well, I guess as we start to wind down, because it's if the folks listening can't tell, it's really raining, I think, quite hard.
Right. Water in the grass.
Yeah, kind of need it. I guess a fun question to ask would be, if you were like starting a venue tomorrow, how would you organize it? What would it consist of?
If I was to start a venue, it'd be somewhere between maybe twice the size of the Muddy Creek space. You know, that number of people. You know, I think it would be. I always thought this was kind of a cool idea to use it during the week. Use it as like an auction house during the week.
Interesting.
So you have all these like antiques and stuff inside that are auctioned off during the week for, you know, the folks that want to come and do that kind of thing a couple days a week, and then when they're not there, the antiques are your decor around the stage. Sort of a random little detail that would be kind of cool. Another way to make money when it's not being operated. But I think that just a quiet, comfortable space for artists to come through and play, and then definitely have different jam nights during the week for people to get together and play music. And you've got the sound there; you can turn it up loud and play and have fun. Yeah. There's a place in we love the city of Brevard, North Carolina. I don't know if you've been there or not. Yeah. There's a place there on King Street that have. I mean, they've got a guy who plays every Tuesday night, and he brings in it's Travis something and friends, and he brings in like Sierra Hull played not too long ago. The guys, I don't know if you're familiar with Fireside Collective. It's a bluegrass band. Those guys will come and play, and it's like Tuesday nights, and people are there hanging out, drinking, having fun. You know, something that would emulate and represent that would be. Would be for me.
I would throw a twist in there as far as in these are my lottery dreams. For a long time, for like 12 years, I taught students that have pretty significant disabilities, and within our little community, again, I taught probably, I mean, our program grew to probably 20 to 25 students with
per year.
Yeah, moderate to pretty severe disabilities. And that population, after they graduate from high school, the resources are, I mean, and it's kind of something that unless you're involved with that particular community, the resources for those individuals are just very few and far between. So
it's basically daycares, and that's
or group homes. And so in my mind, I would employ individuals that have disabilities at the facility, because it gives them purpose, it gives them something to do, you know, it gives them a place to go, but it gives a chance. And I'm very comfortable, but I did it for so long. I'm very comfortable with that population, and I know, you know, students with autism, I know how to work with them, and I think the best thing that I did was to highlight their abilities instead of most of what the world probably sees as the disabilities that they have. So I've always wanted to open some sort of business that would employ individuals with disabilities after high school.
And there it is. That's the business.
There you go.
I think that's great. There was a coffee shop on Trade Street for a while.
Moji.
Yeah, I used to go there, and I was also fortunate to have somebody on our team when I worked downtown who was autistic, and that was eye-opening in a lot of ways, just how much more considerate we could have been. She really revealed that to us, and as we were learning how to sort of best have her on our team, she was also deaf, and so we just learned what it would require to like facilitate the appropriate space for someone that had her needs, and it was a really positive experience. She turned out, I mean, she was better employed than anybody else that we had.
Most of the time, most of those individuals would be. I mean, if you tell them, you know, not only students with autism, but, you know, a lot of those kids, if you tell them you have to be there at 7:38, they're going to be there at 7:38. Yep. But again, I think that was one of the things that I hope brought to the high school that I worked at, was that, you know, these individuals deserve their life to be highlighted also, and their abilities to be highlighted, and that not only do they learn from us, but more than likely we learn more from them, and the compassion and empathy, and, you know, so that's kind of a side road. But to go along with that venue, I would employ individuals with disabilities after they've graduated high school.
So
I like that a lot.
As we start digging for the money outside,
no kidding.
I know.
Yeah,
you could have picked a better weather night, I guess.
It's gonna be rough out there,
but I'll give you a shovel. Do what you got to do. I hope that both of you win a lottery at some point.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think we may have to play.
Well, we'll have you on open night.
Win,
Promise.
you have to play.
I appreciate it. Well, hell,
the pay won't be good, but we'll have you.
I get it. It never is. No. This was fun talking to y'all.
Yeah,
it was great, man. Thank
it
you for
was
having
very
us.
fun.
I've been a fan of your music for a long time, so it was really nice to have you invite us in.
Well, I'm a fan of your music as well.
Thank you.
But so, do you know when your newest release might possibly be?
Yeah, it's 75-80% done right now, so we've made a lot of progress. I was down with the sickness a couple months ago, so I used that 2 weeks off of work to sit in front and hammer out these songs. You know, so we got a lot done in one little chunk of time. So we've just got a few more little things to do, then mix it, and hopefully March we'll be finished.
Good deal.
So if not sooner.
I hope everyone checks it out, and I hope next time that you're at Gas Hill, I'll get an invitation, and I'll
absolutely
check you guys out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
maybe play with us.
We'd love to be there.
It'd
Cool.
be fun.
That'd be fun.
Do a double bill.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been me hanging out with his and hers, otherwise called Caleb and Sarah.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks,
man.
you.